absolute fucking trash. This thing is completely unusable. Hi, this is John from Proper Coils, and today we're having a look at the Ponte RBA Boro from MrJustRight1 and Orca Vape. So here we have the Ponte RBA Boro from MrJustRight1 and Orca Vape. This is, as far as I'm aware, the first ever Boro mesh device. So we'll open her up. I'm not going to show you the complete back to front of the packaging because there is some websites and QR codes which YouTube do not like. So you get this card and it explains the meaning of the word Ponte. So it means bridge in Italian, Portuguese and Galician, and then it gives you a rundown of their idea on why they made the device. It talks a bit in particular about what they've done with the airflow. So there's basically two channels on the side of the Boro which allows side airflow devices to function well with a top airflow Boro tank. So we'll show you that in a sec. So in your accessory pouch you get some gaskets, you get some steel rods, you get an Allen key, and you get some grub screws. Something pretty obvious that's missing in this accessory pouch is some mesh strips. So this does not come with mesh strips, which I think is a bit of a piss take, to be honest, because this is not a cheap device, and mesh strips are not expensive. So I think they really should have thrown in some mesh strips. Not everyone has boxes of mesh strips lying about. Handmade coils or rebuildable coils are more popular than mesh, and a lot of people just won't have them lying around. So it's definitely something they should have thrown in to the packaging. So you also have a 510 adapter here, so you screw that onto the bottom of the Boro device and that will allow you to dry burn your coils. So we'll put that to a side. Nothing else in the packaging. So the way the airflow works, as I was talking about, is, so you can see there's channels. There's a gap between the max width of the Boro and the side of the Boro. So that's a little channel that allows the airflow to run up the side, both sides, and it will hit your top airflow here. So definitely a design that it was well thought out in relation to the airflow. It's a really good idea. A lot of people that are using Boro or billet boxes, or any Boro or billet box style device that has a side airflow, this will accommodate that. You're not going to have any airflow issues. So your airflow is going to come up the side, left or right, depending on where your airflow is, and hit your airflow slots there, which is a very good idea. Then you can see here on the side, one side, there we go, that you can adjust your airflow by lifting this plate up. So you can lift your plate up and you can turn it, and when it'll either open or reduce your airflow depending on whether you want it half open or 3/4 open. So it changes the way the airflow sits when you flip around. Now, I've been running this fully open, so I've been taking this completely off. I think you need something that uses mesh. You're going to need as much airflow as possible to make sure you don't get some sort of a dry hit off it. So I've been running it with the airflow adapter completely off. On the front here, you have your Ponte and your bridge. On the back, you have AYB. You can see there you have four stainless steel cables that's going to use capillary action to get your coil all wicked up. And then on the bottom here you have MrJustRight1 and you have Orca Vape. That is that. So we'll have a look at the deck. So you can see here it's a fairly large chamber. Obviously you're going to need a large chamber to accommodate a mesh strip and all the cotton that goes with that. I wouldn't say the machining is great on the inside. I'd say the machining is pretty good on the outside. There's no there's no blemishes. It looks like a quality material on the outside, but I don't think the machining on the inside is as good as it could be. And here we have the deck. So look, it's the usual crack with a mesh style device. You have your spring here and your ceramic plate, and you have a clamp either side. Nothing too crazy or something you haven't seen before. And then your wick is going to go here, and yeah, flathead screws. Open them up, clamp down the mesh that you had to buy separately because that doesn't give you a mesh strip. So the mesh I had to buy separately was tofu stuff. So I was looking for some mesh that was a higher-ish resistance. So the highest one I found on the website I was using was 0.3. So I've got some 0.3 mesh here. So we're going to use one of those strips, and we're going to put a 510 adapter on. Now the capacity of this tank is 4.2 mil. So yeah, let's get some mesh into this. Right, I'll stop the fast forward there. This is the typical issue I've been having with this since I've got it. So this is the fourth build I've tried with this. When you build your coil initially, before you put it into your device, it will sit at 0.3, around 0.3. As soon as you put it into a billet box device or a Boro device to actually use it, the ohms jump completely all over the place. So it's reading at 1.55 there, 1.7. Back to 0.3. No atomizer. Now I've got the nut jammed down tight. No atomizer would give it another tighten. No atomizer. No atomizer. We'll take it out. I'm going to take it out and I'm going to put in the just to prove that it's not the device. I'm going to put in the atemporal RBA that I reviewed last week. So that, before I even put it in, that should sit at... Now, there's going to be no jump cuts here. I'm going to talk through the whole this. There is that should sit at 0.29, 0.3. That's the build that's in that. It shouldn't jump about like the Ponte was. I'm fairly certain it won't jump about like the Ponte was because I've been using that for the last week. And I had no issues with that at all. So we tighten the nut down, and there's the resistance. So 0.29. I'll fire it. 0.29. Fire it again. 0.29. We'll fire 10 times just to see. So that's 4. 0.29. 6. 0.29. 7 times 0.29. 8 times 0.29. 9 times. So I'm going to end up boring the coil. 10 times 0.29. Nothing moves. Nothing budges. It might very odd time move from 0.29 to 0.3, which is perfectly acceptable. Now again, I'm not going to do any jump cuts. I'm going to take this out. I'll do this at regular speed. We're going to pop this back out. Now this, just to clarify, this is the 4th build I've done in this. The highest resistance I've got from this with 3 different mesh builds was 2.29 was the highest resistance. It's jumping from 0.3 where the mesh coil should be to 2.29, which is ridiculously high resistance. It's crazy stuff. What happens is you're vaping at 30 watts. It's sitting at 0.3 where it should. You hit the button. You get a normal vape at 0.3, which is fine, and then you don't look at your board because it's a billet box. The board's hidden. You're not going to be checking your ohms every hit. It ends up hitting at ohms range of 2.29 at 30 watts, and it burns your lips off. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. It leaves the device completely unusable. And if the resistance isn't jumping around like crazy, it's just giving you a no atomizer. That's what's happening with this. So again, there was no jump cuts there. I talked the whole way through that. You seen what I was doing there. The Ponte's back in. Well, it's given no atomizer. See, you might have to grind down on this because it doesn't make a good connection, which is another issue. So you tighten this down, which you shouldn't have to do. You shouldn't have to be like almost fucking crank it down that you're going to wreck the threads on your billet box. But no atomizer again. No atomizer. I really want to get this reading the resistance again so I can show you how much it's jumping. Right, tighten it. I'll give it a good tighten and hopefully that will work. That's as tight as I can go, really. There we go. So we're back. So there we go. 0.5. What was that? 0.56. Now this should be sitting at 0.3. This is the exact same. All these mesh coils I have here. All these mesh coils. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 left. So this is actually my 5th build in this. This is the 5th time I've tried this. And it's the exact same with every coil. It's not the box. It is this. And it reads fine. You seen it when I was building on the DNA ZQ Ascent. It was reading round. Now it wasn't exact even. It was 0.32 or 0.33. I could cope with that, but this is just completely unusable. There we go. 1 ohm, 1.03. Like you can see how much that's hitting with 40 watts. The mesh strip in here is designed for, and it'll say here, 30 to 40 watts. This is absolutely unusable. Back to 0.33, that you hit the button and it goes to 1.78. Absolute fucking trash. This thing is completely unusable. I tell you what, we're just going to bring it straight back up top and I'll give you my pros and cons, but because there's no point giving you any more down low after that. So we're back up top with the Ponte from MrJustRight1 and Orca Vape. So normally I go through the cons first and then finish off with the pros. We're going to have to flip it today because there's a lot more cons than pros. So we're going to go through the pro first, and the only pro I have is the fact that the airflow, the design on the airflow is pretty smart. So the airflow channels that come up the side of the Boro device allow for devices such as this SXK billet box that has side airflow. It allows for the airflow to travel up the side of the Boro and it hits the top airflow on the Boro device itself, which is a good design. That's pretty much it. I suppose I could say give a pro for the machining on the outside of the Boro device is pretty good. I wouldn't say that on the inside, but the outside is pretty good. So on to the cons. So the first con is the fact that this is, now I can't give prices or websites or whatever, but as a comparison, so I have the atemporal that I reviewed last week from Damn Vape. Very good Boro device, as you'll see in my review. Normal rebuildable coils. It is priced at half the price this is priced at. It's the price on this is absolutely crazy. It's priced like something you'd buy from like a high-end Italian, like something like a Atmizu or some of the higher end companies from Germany that make the really nice machined pieces for Boros or bridges. This is in that bracket when it comes to price. It's crazy. It's crazily priced. And in conjunction with the crazy price, there's stuff you're missing. So you're missing mesh. It's ridiculous that you don't get mesh with this. Every device that is a mesh device should just automatically come with mesh. People don't have mesh lying about generally, unless they're into the mesh, which is probably a very small percentage of the population, because not a lot of people like mesh. Most people like handmade coils or pre-built coils. I do some live shows. I visit live shows. I get invited onto live shows. There's buffets done. I've never ever seen someone in a buffet say, "Oh, by the way, I've been vaping this mesh device for the last week." Nobody in my circle uses mesh regularly. So, in my opinion, if it's not a popular thing, why would you not stick a mesh strip in it? It makes no sense whatsoever, especially when it's overpriced, in my opinion, completely overpriced. And why not stick a 30-cent piece of mesh with the mesh Boro device that you've made? Crazy stuff. It also does, I know I didn't mention this in the download, but you would have seen me when I was building the mesh or bending the mesh, not building it, but that I ended up using like a glue stick that I use for building coils to bend the coil. Like they didn't even put a rod in there so you can bend your mesh. Like that's how bad it is. Like why not? It should come with a rod to bend your mesh. It should come with mesh. It's crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff. The price that this is at, it should come with a gold rod and a gold strip of mesh. That's how expensive it is. The screws on the deck itself, the flathead screws, but they're the funniest shaped flathead screws I've ever seen. The indent where you put your flathead screwdriver is like fat, so a lot of my smaller screwdrivers wouldn't fit. I ended up finding one that did, but the screws are shit. That's another thing that's wrong with it. Obviously, the main issue, or one of the bigger issues, no, the biggest issue, obviously, is the fact that it's completely fucking unusable because the ohms jump about like nothing I've ever used in my life. So we'll do it again. So I'm gonna hit the button 3 or 4 times. So at the minute it's reading at 0.97, which is not where it's supposed to be. So 0.97, and what's that saying now? That is saying 6.68. So it's jumped again, and it's 0.53, and one more time 0.37, closer to where it should be. It is completely unusable. Yet you cannot use this device without. You're either going to burn the mesh out because you're running 40 watts through what the board sees as a 2 ohm coil or a 1 ohm coil or a 0.97 coil. So you're going to burn the mesh out. You're going to get a dry hit, which is the last thing you want from a strip of mesh, because it's like breathing hell basically. Completely, it renders the thing completely unusable. And yeah, I get back to the price again. For the price point it's at, it's a fucking disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. It's the biggest piece of shit I've ever bought in my life, as a vapor. Yeah, that's about my judgment of it. In my opinion, it's a money grab from MrJustRight1. It's a money grab from Orca Vape. There's no QC. Where's the QC with this? There's obviously an issue with the clamps or something that it's not reading properly. How can you price this where it's priced at and not check that the clamps aren't working properly, that it's not reading properly in devices? They obviously just slapped it together. We will be the first mesh Boro device, and we'll make a few pounds. But it wasn't. It was done terribly. Massive money grab, in my opinion. Zero QC, unusable piece of shit. That's my honest opinion. So that was my review of the Ponte. That was my review of the Ponte Mesh Boro from MrJustRight1 and Orca Vape. So if you like the reviews, or they're not normally like this, but if you like the if you did like the review, or you like the reviews in general, make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell. If you're looking for any handmade coils, make sure you head over to propercoils.com. I hope you enjoyed the review. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.